There comes a moment in every warrior's life when hunger speaks louder than wisdom. It whispers, "Take the easier path. Trade your freedom for comfort. No one will know." Most people believe chains are made of iron. The ancient masters knew better. The strongest chains are made of comfort, routine, praise, and fear of losing what feeds you. A wolf dying of hunger once stood face to face with a dog that had everything a starving creature could dream of: warm meals, safety, affection, and a peaceful life. For one brief moment, the wolf believed he had finally found salvation, but hidden beneath polished fur was a wound, a small mark around the neck, a mark that revealed a truth older than every kingdom ever built. Because every comfortable prison leaves a scar. The samurai understood this. Zen monks practiced it. Stoic philosophers wrote about it. The greatest battle is never against the world. It is against the temptation to surrender your spirit for temporary relief. Today, we follow the path of one starving wolf whose greatest victory was not finding food. It was refusing to become someone else's possession. This is not merely an animal story. It is an ancient system of discipline, presence, courage, and inner mastery disguised as a simple encounter in the forest. And perhaps it is also your story. The hunger that tests the spirit. Hunger has a voice. Most animals think hunger only comes from an empty stomach, but that is not true. Hunger also speaks to the mind. It fills the heart with fear. It tells a warrior to take the easiest path, even if it means giving up what truly matters. The wolf knew that voice very well. The forest had once been full of life. Rivers flowed freely, animals were everywhere, and every new day brought hope of finding food. But those days were gone. The rivers had almost dried up, the trees looked tired, and food had become harder to find. The forest still stood strong. The mountains still watched over everything, but the forest no longer felt alive. Every morning, the wolf woke up with an empty stomach. His ribs showed through his rough fur. His legs grew weaker with each passing day, and every failed hunt made him feel more hopeless. At first, the wolf blamed the changing seasons. Then the wolf blamed bad luck. But after many days, the wolf realized the truth. The biggest enemy was not the empty forest. The biggest enemy was the fear growing inside his heart. Fear changes the way every warrior sees the world. Shadows begin to look like prey. Hope begins to feel foolish. Patience starts to feel like weakness. Even the strongest warrior begins to question himself. Many nights, the wolf looked up at the moon and silently wondered, how much suffering must one endure? How long can strength survive without food? Is freedom still worth it if it means starving? The wind gave no answer. Only silence filled the night. Long ago, the old wolves had gathered beneath the oldest tree in the forest. One wise elder looked at the young wolf and said, "Never be afraid of an empty stomach. Be afraid of the day your spirit becomes full of excuses." Back then, the wolf believed those words were easy to follow. Now they felt much harder, because hunger makes every lesson difficult to remember. The sun rose higher into the sky. The heat became stronger. The wolf searched every trail he knew. He found broken branches, old footprints, the weak smell of rabbits that had already escaped. Nothing. Every failed search made him feel weaker. By afternoon, even walking became painful. His paws dragged across the dry ground. His vision became blurry. His body felt heavy. Then suddenly, the wolf smelled something different. It was not danger. It was not another wolf. It was the smell of good food. The rich scent floated through the trees like a beautiful dream. Without thinking, the wolf followed the smell. Each step gave him a little more hope. His heart beat faster. His body felt alive again. Soon the trees opened into a bright meadow. Standing there was a dog. The dog looked healthy and strong. His fur was smooth and shiny. His body was full of muscle. His eyes were bright and peaceful. Unlike the starving animals in the forest, this dog looked like he had never missed a meal. The wolf stood quietly and watched him. At first, the wolf wanted to attack. Fresh meat stood only a short distance away. One successful hunt could keep him alive for several days. But the wolf also saw something important. The dog was strong. Very strong. If they fought, either one could die. So instead of attacking, the wolf stayed where he was. The dog quickly noticed him. Instead of running away, the dog smiled. It was not the smile of an enemy. It was the smile of someone who felt sorry for him. Somehow, that hurt the wolf more than any bite ever could. The dog slowly walked closer. "I've seen many wolves," the dog said kindly, "but I've never seen one this thin. The wolf lowered his head. There hasn't been much food. The dog nodded. I can see that. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The wind gently moved through the grass. Birds sang in the trees. Everything felt peaceful. Finally, the wolf asked, How do you stay so healthy? The dog looked toward the distant village. My master feeds me. The answer surprised the wolf. Food without hunting. Food without struggling. The wolf could hardly imagine such a life. The dog looked at him and asked, You spent your whole life fighting for every meal, haven't you? The wolf nodded. So have all wolves. The dog smiled gently. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Those words stayed in the wolf's mind. What if life really could be different? The forest had only taught him how to survive. It had never taught him how to live comfortably. The dog continued speaking. My life is peaceful. The wolf listened carefully. Every morning food is waiting for me. The wolf imagined waking up without hunger. I never worry about starving. The wolf wished he knew that feeling. There is always fresh meat. His empty stomach growled. There is a warm place to sleep. The wolf remembered many cold nights alone. And people take good care of me. Kindness was something the wolf had almost forgotten. Slowly, pictures filled his mind. A full stomach. A safe place to sleep. No more searching. No more fear. The dog smiled again. You don't have to struggle every day. His words sounded comforting. The tired part of the wolf wanted to believe him. Maybe enough suffering had already happened. Maybe it was finally time to rest. The wolf closed his eyes. The old elder's voice came back. The easiest path is often the most dangerous. The wolf opened his eyes again. The dog still stood there patiently. He looked honest. He looked kind. But something deep inside the wolf refused to stay quiet. The forest also felt different. The wind became still. The birds stopped singing. Even the trees seemed to be listening. The dog stepped closer. You don't have to live like this anymore. Those words almost made the wolf cry. Every hungry creature dreams of hearing those words. The wolf looked back at the forest. The forest had tested him. The forest had made him strong. The forest had almost broken him. But it had never lied. Pain was always honest. Comfort. The wolf wasn't sure yet. The sun slowly began to set. Golden light covered the meadow. Everything looked peaceful. Sometimes beautiful moments hide difficult choices. The dog waited quietly. Then he spoke one last time. If you're tired of suffering, he smiled warmly. Come with me. Those words echoed in the wolf's heart. Come with me. Leave the hunger behind. Leave the fear behind. Leave the hard life behind. The smell of warm food drifted through the evening air. Behind the wolf stood the wild forest that had shaped him. In front of him stood a life filled with comfort. The wolf stood still between the two worlds. For the first time in his life, the wolf realized that the greatest battles are not fought with teeth or claws. They begin with a single choice. The collar. Hidden behind comfort, the wolf stood quietly as the evening wind blew through the tall grass. Behind him was the hard forest that had tested him every day of his life. In front of him stood the healthy dog, waiting for him. The dog's words stayed in the wolf's mind. Come with me. Those simple words felt warm and comforting. The wolf looked back at the forest one last time. The trees were dark. The ground was dry. Everything behind him reminded him of hunger and struggle. Everything ahead seemed to offer peace. For the first time, the wolf imagined living a different life. A life where he didn't wake up every morning worried about finding food. A life where he could go to bed with a full stomach instead of feeling hungry. Slowly, the wolf took one step, then another. Without saying anything else, he followed the dog. The dog smiled. I knew you would come. The wolf gave a tired smile. I'm just tired of suffering. The dog nodded. Hunger can make even the strongest animal change its mind. Those words made the wolf feel understood. Finally, someone knew how he felt. They walked together across the open field. The sun slowly disappeared behind the hills, filling the sky with orange and red colors. The cool evening air carried wonderful smells. Fresh bread, roasted meat, smoke from cooking fires, warm homes. The wolf closed his eyes for a moment. His empty stomach growled. The dog laughed softly. You won't be hungry much longer. The wolf wanted to believe him. With every step, the promise felt more real. Soon there would be no more hunting. No more cold nights. No more endless searching for food. Only rest. Only safety. Only comfort. The thought filled the wolf with hope. But it was the kind of hope that could easily blind someone. As they walked, the dog talked happily about his life. "My master is kind." The wolf imagined waking up to a bowl full of food every morning. "I have a warm place to sleep." The wolf remembered sleeping under cold, wet trees. "When I get sick, someone takes care of me." No one had ever taken care of the wolf except himself. The dog smiled. "My life is easy." The wolf wished he could have a life like that. Maybe the old wolves had been wrong. Maybe pain wasn't the only way to become strong. Maybe a peaceful life could also make someone strong. The idea surprised him. As they kept walking, the sounds of the forest slowly disappeared. The birds stopped singing. The trees became quiet. Even the wind felt different. The wolf noticed something else. He could no longer smell the fresh scent of the wild forest. Now everything smelled like humans. Cooked food, firewood, smoke, soap, leather. The smells were strange but not bad. Far away, small lights shined in the darkness. The village. The dog's home. The place where his suffering might finally end. The wolf's heart beat faster. His tired legs suddenly felt stronger. For the first time in many weeks, the future seemed brighter than the past. The dog noticed the wolf's excitement. "You'll like it there." "I hope so," the wolf answered quietly. "There is plenty to eat." The wolf smiled. "You'll never need to hunt again." Those words sounded almost magical. Never hunt again. How many nights had the wolf dreamed of hearing those words? How many mornings had he wished someone would simply hand him food? Countless. The wolf continued walking. But then, something caught his eye. It was small. So small that another animal might never have noticed it. A narrow patch around the dog's neck, where the fur was thinner than everywhere else. The skin beneath looked slightly worn, almost scarred. The wolf slowed his steps. His eyes remained fixed on that strange mark. The dog kept walking. The wolf continued staring. The mark looked old, not fresh, not painful, but it had clearly been there for a long time. Finally, curiosity became stronger than silence. "What happened to your neck?" The dog stopped walking. For the first time since they met, his cheerful smile faded. The evening breeze became strangely still. The village lights flickered quietly in the distance. The dog looked away before answering. "Oh, it's nothing." The wolf frowned. "It doesn't look like nothing." The dog forced another smile. "It's only where my collar rests." "Collar?" "Yes." The dog spoke so casually that the word almost sounded unimportant. The wolf tilted his head. "What is a collar?" The dog hesitated. Then he answered honestly, "It is something my master places around my neck." The wolf remained silent. "Why?" The dog looked toward the village again. "So everyone knows I belong to him." Those words floated gently through the evening air, but they landed heavily inside the wolf's heart. "Belong." The wolf repeated the word silently. Animals belong to themselves. The river belonged to no one. The mountains belonged to no one. The wind belonged to no one. How could a living creature belong to another? The wolf asked softly. "Can you remove it?" The dog shook his head. "Not by myself." A strange feeling slowly entered the wolf's chest. Not fear, not anger, something deeper, something he could not yet name. The wolf looked again at the worn mark around the dog's neck. Suddenly, it no longer looked small. It looked heavy, heavier than hunger, heavier than loneliness. The wolf spoke carefully. "So, the collar stays on all the time?" The dog smiled awkwardly. "Most of the time." "And if you want to run through the forest?" "I usually don't." "But could you?" The dog hesitated again. "If my master allows it." The wolf blinked. "And if he doesn't?" The dog lowered his eyes. "Then I stay." Silence filled the road between them. The evening birds had stopped singing. Even the wind seemed unwilling to interrupt. The wolf stared at the path beneath his paws. Every step he had taken suddenly felt different. Moments earlier, he believed he had been walking toward freedom. Now, he wasn't so sure. The dog noticed the change in the wolf's face. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand." "My master loves me." "I don't doubt that." "He feeds me." "I can see that." "He protects me." "I'm sure he does." The wolf lifted his eyes. "But can you leave whenever you wish?" The dog opened his mouth. No answer came. The silence answered instead. The wolf slowly understood everything. Every delicious meal, every warm bed, every gentle touch, every comfortable day. None of them were free. Each one had been exchanged for something priceless. Choice. The wolf remembered the old elder's words beneath the ancient pine tree. A cage lined with gold is still a cage. Back then, those words had sounded dramatic. Now they sounded painfully true. The dog looked almost ashamed. "I've grown used to it," the wolf asked quietly. "Does that make it freedom?" The dog couldn't answer. They stood together beneath the darkening sky. One had food but no complete freedom. The other had freedom but no food. Neither life was easy. Neither path was perfect. The wolf finally understood why the forest had remained silent. Some lessons cannot be taught. They must be discovered. The village lights continued glowing ahead. They looked beautiful, almost magical. Yet now the wolf noticed something he had ignored before. Tall wooden fences, closed gates, ropes, posts. Everything that welcomed comfort also seemed to keep something inside. The wolf took a slow breath. His hunger remained. His body still felt weak. Nothing about his suffering had changed. But something inside him had awakened. His spirit had begun asking questions his stomach could never answer. The dog looked back. "Are you coming?" The wolf didn't answer immediately. His eyes rested once more on the faded mark around the dog's neck. It was no longer just a scar. It had become a symbol, a silent reminder that not every smiling face is truly free. Not every comfortable life belongs to the one living it. And not every chain is made of iron. Some are made of warm meals. Some are made of soft beds. Some are made of fear. Some are made of comfort. The wolf remained standing in the middle of the quiet road. The village waited ahead. The forest waited behind. One promised safety. The other demanded courage. The night grew darker. The wind carried no advice, only silence. And in that silence, the wolf knew that the next step would decide far more than where he would sleep. It would decide the kind of spirit he would become. The warrior who walked back into the wild. The wolf stood still. The cool evening wind blew gently across the meadow. The setting sun covered the land with a warm golden light. Everything looked peaceful, but inside the wolf, a great battle was taking place. He had to make the biggest decision of his life. On one side was hunger. On the other side was freedom. For many days, the wolf had dreamed of finding enough food to survive. Every painful step through the forest had been driven by one hope, to find something to eat. Now that hope stood right in front of him. The dog had offered him everything he had ever wished for. Warm meals every day, a safe place to sleep, protection from danger, a life without worrying about where the next meal would come from. For a moment, it felt like all his suffering was finally over. But then the wolf looked again at the small mark around the dog's neck. It was only a small patch where the fur had rubbed away. Most animals would never notice it, but the wolf could not stop looking at it. That small mark told a story. It reminded him that every good meal the dog enjoyed came with a price. Every peaceful night, every comfortable day, every happy moment had been bought by giving up freedom. The dog noticed the wolf staring. "It's really nothing," the dog said with a smile. "The chain doesn't bother me very much. Most days I don't even notice it." The wolf stayed quiet. "I don't even notice it." Those words stayed in his mind. How many animals had stopped noticing their own chains? How many had lived in comfort for so long that they forgot what freedom felt like? The wolf looked at the dog and asked softly, "Can you leave whenever you want?" The dog became quiet. "Not always," he admitted. "Can you go hunting if you feel like it?" The dog shook his head. "No." "Can you sleep anywhere you choose?" Again the dog answered, "No." Silence filled the meadow. The wolf finally understood. The dog had everything. He had good food. He had safety. He had love. But one thing was missing. His life belonged to someone else. The wolf no longer felt jealous. Instead, he felt sorry for the dog. Not because the dog was weak, but because he had forgotten what it meant to be truly free. The wolf slowly turned and looked at the forest. Only a short while ago he had hated it. He had blamed the forest for his hunger. He had blamed it for his pain. Now he saw it differently. The forest had never been his enemy. It had been his teacher. Every cold night had made him stronger. Every failed hunt had taught him patience. Every difficult day had built courage inside him. The old words of the elder wolf came back to him. A strong tree does not grow because the weather is easy. It grows because it survives every storm. The wolf closed his eyes. His stomach was still empty. His body was still tired. Nothing had changed on the outside. But everything had changed inside his heart. The fear that had followed him for so many days was gone. He finally understood something important. Hunger can weaken the body, but only fear can imprison the spirit. The dog took one step closer. "You don't have to keep suffering," he said kindly. The wolf smiled. He knew the dog meant well. The dog truly believed he was offering a better life, but the wolf now understood something the dog could no longer see. "There is something worse than being hungry," the wolf said. The dog looked surprised. "What could be worse?" The wolf looked toward the dark forest. "Forgetting who you are." The evening became quiet again. Neither of them spoke. The last sunlight slowly disappeared behind the hills. Night began to cover the land. The wolf took one step backward, not toward the village, toward the forest. The dog looked confused. "You're leaving." The wolf nodded. "My stomach wants to follow you." Then he gently placed one paw on his chest. "But my spirit wants to go home." The dog lowered his head. "You may starve." "I know." "You may never find enough food." "I know." "You may even die." The wolf smiled peacefully. "Every living creature will die one day." The dog asked. "Then why choose the harder life?" The wolf looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the sky. "Because the harder life is still my own." A cool wind blew through the trees. It felt as though the forest was calling him home. The wolf could almost hear the sound of flowing water deep inside the forest. He could hear the leaves moving gently. He could hear the quiet voice of nature. For the first time in many days, that silence no longer frightened him. It gave him peace. The wolf turned away from the village and began walking back into the forest. His body was still weak. His stomach was still empty. But his heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. Every step felt different, not because the road had become easier, but because the wolf no longer feared it. The moon slowly rose into the night sky. Its soft light covered the forest. The same trees stood where they had always stood. The same rocks lined the narrow paths. The same cold wind touched his fur. Nothing around him had changed. The change had happened inside him. The wolf finally understood that real strength is not found in comfort. Real strength is built when a person refuses to give up what matters most. As he walked deeper into the forest, he noticed sounds he had ignored before. The singing of crickets, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of an owl. Even the silence felt alive. The wolf stopped beneath the ancient tree, where the elder wolves had once shared their wisdom. The tree was still standing, strong, patient, unmoved by countless storms. The wolf rested beneath its branches. The elder's words returned once more. "Freedom is the food that keeps the spirit alive." Now the wolf finally understood. A full stomach keeps the body alive, but freedom keeps the soul alive. The wind gently moved through the branches above his head. It almost sounded like the old elders were speaking to him again. The wolf smiled, not because life had become easier, but because he finally knew which path to follow. Tomorrow would still bring hunger. Tomorrow would still bring hard work. Tomorrow would still test his courage. But now every challenge had a purpose. Every struggle would make him stronger. Every failure would teach him something. Every victory would be earned. The wolf looked into the dark forest ahead. It no longer looked frightening. It looked like home. The stars filled the sky above him. They reminded him that true greatness is never handed to anyone. It is earned through difficult choices. The wolf stood up once more. His legs were still weak. His stomach was still empty. But his spirit had never been stronger. Without looking back, the wolf walked deeper into the forest. Behind him were warm meals, soft beds, and invisible chains. Ahead of him were hardship, discipline, freedom, and hope. The wolf chose freedom because he knew that comfort without freedom is only another kind of prison. The forest slowly swallowed his footsteps until they disappeared into the night. The dog remained standing at the edge of the meadow, watching the wolf disappear. After a long time, the dog slowly raised his paw and touched the mark around his neck. For the first time in many years, he truly felt the weight of his collar. And deep inside the quiet forest, a hungry wolf continued walking forward. His stomach was empty, but his spirit was free. and no chain in the world could ever take that away.